How's it going, guys? This is Steve with another CG Geek Blender tutorial. Today we will be doing a logo intro explosion. We're going to be taking a nice logo and then blowing it up with a cool explosion to use in anything, pretty much. You can use it as an intro to a YouTube video. You could use it as just an intro to any sort of video, I guess, or film or logo or game or whatever you want. So it's fun tutorial on exploding things. It's always fun whenever you're exploding anything. So that's why I'm doing it. So let's get into it. To start, we are going to need to model some text. Now you can't use Blender's built-in text function. When you go Shift A, you can see there's an option to add text. This works fine for text if you don't care about how the geometry is, but if you need it to be nice and orderly, you have to model the text yourself. And that's what I need to do for this, and it's not hard, it's pretty easy, especially depending on the font you want to model. But basically, you just need to open up some text, pretty much in Photoshop or GIMP or whatever, and write out what you want your logo to be, in whatever font you want it to be. Save out that image, and then you can open up that image as a background image here. So I'm going to enable background images there. Drop that down and go add image, open, and now I have to try and find where I saved out that that image right there, logo text PSD. So I open that up and you can see I have my name here in the font I like. So I'm going to be using this as a reference to model my my text, so I can explode my text as a cool intro. So to start, I'm just going to use a basic plane. I'll put my cursor, well, let's just put our cursor at the center. So I'm going to go Shift S, cursor to center, and then go Shift A, add in a plane, rotate that 90 degrees along the X axis with R, 90, and X. If you didn't see that, I have the screencast keys in the corner there. Alright, so now I'm just going to hit Tab to go into edit mode and place this plane over on our C here. So I'm just kind of moving around with my middle mouse wheel and holding Shift, and then grabbing and positioning it right about there. Alright, now as you can see we need to move this vertex up a little bit to match that angle. And now we have a little curve here. I'm not going to worry about the curves until later. So I'm just going to act like there's no curve there, go to the bottom there, and then go Control R, drop in some vertices right there, and then I can take these two vertices here, extrude them out. I want to do it completely straight though, so I'm just going to hit E and then let go of it. And then I can grab that red bar there, arrow, and just drag it out. I'll drag it out to that point, so it's along this seam here. And then if I extrude and drag it out to that point, I already have my cut there basically, that I can just grab those two vertices and continue extruding up. So like I said, this is very easy and isn't even very time consuming. So I'm just going to E, pull it up to the top there, let go, grab those two, E, let go. Basically I'm Eing and then just right clicking to unselect my extrusion, and then pull it out to about there, E, right click, then pull it out all the way to there. Alright, actually I'm left clicking, I'm sorry. Left, right, it's so confusing. Alright, so then one more time, E, extrude it down to the bottom, and then grab that vertex and pull it down a little bit further. So you see we have something like that. And it's good, but it's not great. There's no round edges or anything. So we'll fix that. But first, I'm just going to copy this geometry for the G because it's very similar. So I'm just going to go Shift D and then drag it right on over to my G. And all I have to do is kind of grab some of these and pull them around to match. Pretty much it's going to be the same though. There we go, match that up. And then if I hit Z, I can go into wireframe there and position the vertices up how I want. And I can see the background image behind it there then. And then this one can come up to there, right around there. If I wanted this to be perfectly straight, I can just grab both of them with box select, scale along the Z, 0. And that flattens it out real nice. Okay, and then just extrude it one more time up to there. And then grab those two and extrude it out. Okay, so it's looking pretty good, but again, it's square. So what are we going to do about the squares? Well, here's the fun part. All we have to do is use the bevel function. And obviously, because I have two G's here, I can copy this G over to that G and skip another step of making a whole other text because they're the same. And then I just have a few other letters there that are real easy. But I'm just going to show you how to do these, and I'll do these off camera. So basically I'm just going to grab all of my letters now, go to top view, and extrude them backwards. So I'm just going to extrude and then pull them out. Something around that. The thicker they are, the more like particles you'll have when you explode them. So it's kind of cool to be thick, but you might not want to go too thick. So something like that is about as thick as I want to go. So that's good. I can go to front view now, unselect that. And now basically I just want to select these corners, and it looks like maybe my normal's messed up. If you're not sure what normals are, it's basically the direction the faces are pointing. So in the case that they might be, you just select all of your vertices, go over to your Shading and UVs tab here, and then click Recalculate on the normals. And you can see it shades them differently now, and that looks more proper. So if that ever happens to you, just select all your vertices and recalculate the normals right there. Cool. Alright, so to give it a nice bevel look now, we're going to be using Blender's Bevel Feature, which is really easy to use and fun to use, actually. So I'm just going to select both the vertices in the corner there, go Control B, and if I drag my mouse, you can see it's beveling it with a sharp edge there, just 2 vertices. And if I use my scroll wheel, you can see it adds more vertices to it. So you see how easy that is to use? It's super fun and super easy to play with. All you have to do is use your scroll wheel and drag your mouse, and you get the amount of detail and the bevel you're looking for. So I don't want too much bevel here, but I think that something like that will be good. And there you go. Yeah, nice bevel on your G. So same thing for these. Make sure you get both those vertices selected there. Hit Z. And then if I go into, again, wireframe mode, I can see that black line nicely. I go Control B and drag it to that line, and then use a scroll wheel to add some detail. Keeping the detail pretty consistent with all the different bevels, so they look similar. And just 2 more here on this model. Do that. Okay. Control B. Drag it, scroll the wheel a little bit. And then 1 more up here. Grab it. Okay, that's good. Control B. Drag it in. Awesome. So that's how you get the detail and the round text. It's very easy and very simple. I'm going to go smooth shading. I'll leave it flat for now, actually, because it looks a little better. And then there's just a few bevels on the C here in the corners. Can I do more than one at a time? Yes, I can. So let's just do that. Grab them all at the same time. Make sure we have all of them selected. There we go. And then go Control B. And this way, so it'll be exactly the same. And there we go. So a really fun, easy to use feature, and it gives you the bevel. Just keep in mind, it is giving you n-gons, I believe they called. Basically, it's a face with more than 4 vertices. I found that this still works fine, though, with the self-fracture add-on, but just keep in mind that they're not no longer a face. They're an n-gon face, or I think that's what it's called. So just keep that in mind. The one thing that you can't have when you're using the self-fracture add-on is triangles. For whatever reason, if you have 2 vertices right next to each other or on top of each other like a triangle, it doesn't work very well. I think maybe you can use a triangle, but you can't have 2 separate vertices right next to each other. That's what I found with the K. When I modeled it, I had to make sure that I didn't have any vertices right on top of each other. Otherwise, you might have issues with the self-fracture add-on. But besides that, it's pretty straightforward. Let me quick do that K so you guys can just see how it's done. I'm just going to Shift D these vertices here. Whoops. Command Z. I thought maybe I didn't Shift D. There we go. How come they don't want to let go? Let me see. What am I doing here? Grab them, Shift D. Alright, there we go. And I'm just going to hold Control to kind of snap it over there. Right about there. No, this is the E, over the K. There we go. And I just want to quick show you what I did with the K to prevent having those duplicate vertices. Let me just drag these 2 lines down. There we go. And then grab these faces. Alright, sweet. Extrude them. Whoops, extrude them. Unselect that button there. I accidentally checked that. That's messing me up. There we go. Extrude them out like so, and then I'm just going to rotate this. Something like that. Pull it out to there. Grab this down to there. And then grab this one down to there. That way I avoid having any triangles, and it fixed the issue I had with vertices being on top of each other, whatever, and causing an issue with the cell fracture add-on. So there's just a trick for you, and if you want to keep these all nice and even, like I want, scale on the Z to 0. And then same thing on the bottom, extrude these out, something like that, and then scale everything at the bottom to be nice and flat. Alright, cool. It looks like maybe this vertex here is sticking out a little bit. We just want to pull that in, make sure it's nice and even. Alrighty, and it looks like maybe this vertex could come up a little bit. Oh, let's just do both these at the same time. Actually, let's just scale these all along the Z to keep it nice and even. There we go. Alright, that's looking pretty decent. You could pull both these out a little bit if you needed to. But there you go. So that's how I did the K, and avoided using triangles. So go ahead and obviously give that thickness like you did everything else. And select all those vertices. Oop, looks like I have a little issue here. What's this? I got two vertices on top of each other. Gotta meld them together. Alt-M? I'm sorry. Control-M? Nope. Alt-M. Merge at center. There we go. Now we don't have those duplicate vertices and nothing to worry about with the cell fracture add-on. So I'll quick finish modeling the rest of the letters here, and then I'll jump back with you to do some exploding. Okay, so there's the text modeled all the way. Just some quick and easy modeling, and we're ready to explode. So I'm going to need to enable the cell fracture add-on, which comes with Blender. You're just going to go User Preferences, Add-ons, and then search for Cell. And you'll have cell fracture right there. Just click that button on the corner there and it enables it, and you should be good to go. Okay, so now that you've enabled the cell fracture add-on, it will show up here in your toolbar, and we're ready to shatter. So first off, you're going to want to place your cursor right around here. This is going to be where the text is going to first shatter. And because I'm going to be using some of the recursive shatter settings, it's going to be using the cursor to determine where the more detailed shards are going to go. And I want it to be right around this G, because that's where we're going to have it break first. And a little more detail there would be cool. So with your cursor placed where you want your extra detail, I'm going to leave that right around there. And then I'm going to go cell fracture. Actually, let me select that first. There we go. Cell fracture. And I'm going to have it go from its own vertices. I'm going to give it a source limit of about 250. This is about the number of shards, I guess. Give it a noise value of about 1. And let's give it a recursive value of about 1, 2. The recursive value, I guess, I'm not really sure what this number does. As long as it's not 0, though, it will be recursively shattering them. And then the clamp recursion, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's called recursive? Recursion? I don't know. The more I say it, the more I mess it up. So I'm going to put this around 100. So it clamps it at about 100. It doesn't do too much extra detail. Because the recursive shatter basically adds another step of splitting to detail it in different parts of the mesh. And I'm going to choose it to do that in the cursor close area. You can see you can randomly have it do it. You can have small, big, or cursor far. I'm choosing cursor close right there to have it do the recursive shatter where the cursor is near. Alright, and then I'm going to give it a random value of about 0.5. And that should do it for our settings. If you wanted the inner material of your shards to be a different material, you would change this to 1, but I'm not going to worry about that for this. So with all your settings set now, we can go OK and let Blender do its shattering. So you can see it in real time here. It happens real fast. And just this is the recursive step now where it flies around and does a little extra detail. And when it's done, it places it on layer 2. And if I go there now, you can see here's our mesh, but it's nicely shattered. We have more shards over here than over here. I might want a few more over here. So maybe I'll try placing my cursor over there. Trying that one more time, but it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way it's sharding. Fracturing, I should say. And go ahead and cell fracture it one more time. Maybe turn the random down a little bit. That might be preventing it from doing it where I want it. And maybe turn the noise down just a little bit too, just so it's not intervening too much with where I want it. And let's just go OK and try that again. So it goes through and shatters it up again, and then comes back and does the recursive shattering here. Alright, there we go. And let's see what that looks like. That's looking a little better. We get some shards up there now. Almost good, but I think I want just a little bit more detail. So one more time now. I'll put my cursor right around there and go cell fracture, but this time I'm going to give it a clamp recursion of about 150, so it gives it a few more small shards. Choose cursor close again, maybe give it a little bit more random value, and go OK. And then make sure your mesh is selected. So to go ahead and go OK again, our settings are still there. And there we go. So this one should be perfect, I would guess. There we go. We get some nice detail around in that area. Now that I turn the clamp recursion to 150, and you can see we have some more detail there, and that looks really usable. So we'll go with that. Our G is the most shattered, and then the pieces get a little larger towards the outside here. So that should work great. And we're ready to start animating our shatter. Okay, so what I'm going to start by doing is creating the object that will shatter this text. Now basically I want to shatter in the middle and then break outward. So I'm going to create kind of a little pyramid here to shatter my text. And I'll just use a cube. I'll scale it down, drag it down here a little bit, and scale along the x-axis, so S and X, to something like that. Now I'll Control R, put a cut in the center of this. So tab in edit mode, Control R, drop a cut right in the middle there, and then let's pull the corners, box select both the corners, down a bit. Now let's make sure we get both those vertices there on both sides, and then pull it down a bit. So it's something like that. This way is it will be, when I animate it upwards, it will be smashing the center and then smashing the rest of the text. So maybe we don't even have to pull it down quite so far. We can grab those two faces and lift them up a little bit, but something like that will do it. And that should about do it. Let's just kind of give these vertices on top a little bit more of a point to hit. So I'm going to scale them along the Y. So it's a little bit more pointed like that. Maybe just pull it back there a little bit. Scale them along the Y. There we go. That'll be a nice shatter effect, I think. So it kind of shadows them out in every direction and not just straight up. The more pointed that is, the better. Let me see if I can't scale it in just a little bit more, I guess. Scale on the Y. Something like that. Alright. That should work. Okay, so let's animate these shards now with using some rigid bodies. So I'm going to go ahead and select just one of these shards, and I can work on the settings to that and then copy it to the rest of them. So over here in my rigid body tools, you can see you have the physics here and your rigid body tools. I'm going to just go add active. And then over here in your physics tab, you can switch to that right there. You can see that you have all your settings show up here that are ready to be used. So the first settings I'm going to change is the collision boundaries, the rigid body collisions. It's set up to be convex hull, but this has to be mesh for this next setting to work, which is the enable deactivation. So this is a really cool setting, and I think it's relatively new, so you need to be using a recent version of Blender. But go ahead and choose both those options there. And now you can see when you play the simulation, that part won't move. But if I unselect these two, there we go, you can see it's going to go ahead and drop to the ground. So basically this enables deactivation, which means it's not activated until it's collided with, which is really cool. Because we're going to be having this collide with it, but we don't want it to move until this collides with it. So this is a way to do that. So set that up, and everything else should be okay to go for now. Yes. So I can go box select all the other shards there, and then with this one being the last one selected, you can see because it's a different shade of orange, I can go copy from active over here, and now they'll all have those rigid body settings. And if I go play, they'll all stay put. Awesome. Now I don't want them to stay put forever. I want to break them. So using my breaker bar here, we'll just call it that, I guess. I'm going to go add active, and this one is going to be animated because I'm going to be animating this to break it. So go ahead and choose animated, and that's all we really have to do for now. Now I'll jump to something like frame 50 and add a keyframe here. So just hit I with this selected location. And then I'll scrub about 8 frames on in my animation and move this just straight upward until it's touching all the letters. So right about there. And go I, insert location again. Okay, so this is now animated to move between those two keyframes, and we'll have a nice explosion effect when it touches it. So going back to frame 1 and playing it again so it recaches the simulation in the timeline here, we'll see what that looks like. You can see at frame 50 it moves up and breaks our mesh. So it's not looking too bad. Let me go ahead and put my timeline to end at about 100 frames. So go ahead and put about 100 in there. Now it will not go on so long, but you can see right around there it breaks the mesh, and it looks pretty decent. And the cool thing about it is as soon as one of them breaks, the collision of that one moving is sent to the next one and so forth, so it kind of shatters them all then. But you can see it starts at the bottom and moves upward. Pretty good. I might want to just tweak my breaker bar here by moving these vertices down a little bit, I guess. Let me grab both those. It might just be easy to grab the faces there. Grab that face and grab that face there, and move them just down a little bit, so they don't break quite as quickly. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, they're still kind of breaking, and I think that's because it's convex hull as the collision. Let's go ahead and change that to mesh on the breaker bar there, and see how that looks. Alright, so that's looking a bit better. It's breaking in the center and then upwards as it goes. And I think that's actually pretty good. It's happening pretty fast, but that's okay, because when I render this out, I'm actually going to not be I'm going to be doing it basically in slow motion. So a cool effect that will give it about 50% speed to make it look really sweet. So I think that's going to work great, and that's a nice little animation there for our exploding logo. If you wanted it to explode faster or higher or anything like that, you could have this animated a bit faster. And I'll just show you here if I move this up a little bit there, insert a location keyframe and delete this other one by just hovering over it there on the timeline and then going Option I, delete keyframe. It's going to happen a little bit faster now, and it will break a little bit faster and shoot up a little bit higher too. So that might be a little bit better. You can kind of experiment with it, but that looks pretty good. That one letter is kind of hovering on my breaker bar there a little bit, which I'm not crazy about because it looks a little unrealistic when it does that. So maybe make it happen just a little bit faster yet. Go a frame ahead, move it up a bit. I insert location and delete that old keyframe with Option I. There we go. Let's see how that's looking. And kablooey. That's looking pretty nice. Nothing hanging too much here, and it's just going fast. That kind of bounces a little bit, but that's fine. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Nice exploding text. So now what's next? Well, it's time to add the smoke simulation to it. And the smoke simulation is fun. We get to experiment with lots of settings and do some cool effects. So let's jump into it. To do the smoke, you're going to want to start by grabbing one of your particles here and adding smoke. So we can collapse the rigid body settings now. We're done with those, and we'll go on to the smoke settings. So go ahead and click the smoke there, and this is going to be a flow object. Now we want this to have an initial velocity because it's basically blowing up in the sky. So go ahead and add initial velocity to that, and we want it to be not just smoke but fire and smoke, so change the flow type to that. The initial velocity, we could give it some velocity on the normal here as well, so go ahead and make both of those 1. Let's give it some extra subframes. We'll go 3 subframes there. And alright, now the surface here is going to be when the smoke basically ignites. And if I leave it just at this, it's going to ignite on frame 1. And we don't want that because we want it to ignite when the particles blow up. So I'm going to jump to frame 50 here where it starts to explode. Let me quick cache in my animation here so I can kind of see exactly when it's exploding. Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to jump to frame 50 here and scrub along. Right around here is where I want it to be ignited. So starting on this keyframe here, I want it to be nothing. So I'm going to change the normal value here, the surface value here. This is going to be how much it's ignited, to be 0. And then hit I with my cursor hovering over that setting so it puts a keyframe on that setting there. Alright, so now I'm going to scrub along. Whoops, I need to recache in my, my simulation here real quick. Right to about that point here, or this point here, just about 3 frames, I'd say, maybe 2 frames ahead, and give this a 1.5 value again, and then hit I on it. So now you can see that here it's nothing, here it's starting to ignite, and then there it's fully ignited. So I want to share the animation data from this little shard to all the shards on this G. So to do that, I'm just going to box select everything and then make sure that's the last one selected. And it has the different shade of color on it. It means it's the active object. Then go Control L, make links, animation data. Now all these different shards will have the animation data of the smoke igniting at frame 50 to 52, just like we want. Now we want the same thing to be on the other text just a little bit later. Now if I go, say, select this and then select this like so, and make sure this is the last one selected, and go Control L, make links, animation data, that works. But the problem is if I change the animation data on this one now by hitting, say, I, you can see it changes it on this one as well because it's linked and not copied. So we want to Command Z that, because I don't want a keyframe in the middle there, so Command Z that keyframe there. And the way I'm going to do this is basically I need to take the animation data after I copy it over and make it a single user so it's not linked. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and select a mesh, a shard off my G that's set up animated the way I want, and then select both this G here and this E here. Maybe actually we can go both E's, and then we'll just do the other C and K as the last settings. So I'm going to select those there, and then with this one being the last one selected, I'm going to go Control L, animation data. Now before I can tweak the settings on these though, I need to unselect that. I need to go not control, but just hit U, and then go make single user object animation. Okay, so now I can come in here and change these keyframes to ignite a little bit later. I think I'll start it at 52, so make 52 0, and then make like 54 1.5, and insert keyframe right there. Now you'll see if I scrub through, let me delete that first keyframe that we don't need anymore there. Now you'll see that these are keyframed, whoops, not all of them, but where was that one that I was working on that I changed? I need to try and find it. Or was that shard I was working on? That's the issue when you are working on just one shard. Let me quick redo that. I'll just use this shard here. 52 I want to be 0, and then 54 I want to be 1.5. Insert keyframe. Now I need to make links again between these letters. So grab those, not our breaker bar there, and go Control L, animation data. So these all have the same animation data now of the keyframes being at 0.2, 0.25, or 52 and 54. And this one is still, well, this one's 52 and 54 now. So I need to offset that. So to do that, I'm going to select all this letter like I did before, U, make single user object data, and then I'm going to animate this to be the way I want at frame 50. There we go. Hope this makes sense for you guys. And now you can see that this one is 0, and at frame 50 is 1.5, and this one at frame 52 is 0, and then at frame 54 is 1.5. Just the way I want it. Now you can see that that doesn't copy, I guess. I can't do the U on multiple objects. So let me see if there's a way to do that. Selected objects. It should go, if I box select them all, U, object animation. And then maybe Control L, make links to the animation data, because this is the one that has the right animation data. Maybe that's what I did wrong. Yeah. So now these all have the right animation data, and these all have the right animation data. Sweet. So just don't forget to make the links. And as long as all of your shards are starting at frame 50 and ignited at frame 52, and all these shards are 0 frame 52, and then 54 1.5, you're good to go. So I hope that's not too confusing. I might have made that sound more complicated than it is. It's not really that complicated. Let's just go on to the last ones here, and we want to make these single user. So select both those and go U, object animation, so a single user, and then I'll select one of these shards and we want to ignite this one at like frame 53, so it'd be 0 at frame 53. Alright, we can delete the extra keyframes that we don't need there. And then at frame 55, we want it to be 1.5. So we'll go ahead and hit I there. Delete the middle keyframe that we don't need. Perfect. And now I just need to make links. So grab all of your shards on both of them, go Control L, and make the links to the animation data. And you can see these are all set up right. These are all set up right, and these are all set up right. Alright, so we're good to go. And because of the smoke flow animation all being set up properly now, all we have to do is drop a domain in here, and we're ready to simulate our smoke. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Shift A, add a cube, scale it up a bit, and then scale along the X, just so it covers our text and our exploding text. So let me kind of play that through here. Okay, so you can see the shards explode pretty high, but not too high. So right about there, they're at their highest point. So I just need to scale my domain up a little bit, and then up along the Z a little bit there. And that should keep everything inside the boundary pretty well. And I think that should work. So with the domain now the right size, we can give it the smoke settings. So we'll go smoke, and then domain. Now I'm just going to start off leaving it really low quality so I can preview it. But I want it to dissolve after about 30 frames here, and I want the smoke to rise a little slower, and the temperature difference here is what causes that to rise. You can see higher values result in faster rising smoke, so I'm going to take that down 2 digits and make it 0.001, and then I'm going to choose smoke adaptive domain as well, because that will basically make the domain only as big as it needs to be. And then I'm going to change the smoke cache to 100 because we're only doing 100 frames. Alright, so I can kind of see what this is looking like now if I play it through. It's going to play a little bit slower. On my system it's going about 7 FPS. And caching in the smoke is really going to depend on your RAM, and then it also takes a bit of hard drive space. So how much space you have, you want to make sure you have enough space in your hard drive. But the speed of it will go on your RAM as to how fast it caches it in. So you can see that's looking pretty cool. It's a nice explosion there, and if I go frame by frame here, you can see it start in the center, blowing out, and then blowing all the way out, and that's because we keyframe that like we did. So it's really cool, and there you go. So let's do a high quality bake. So I'm going to save my blend file, and then crank the settings up here. So I think I'll go around 150, and then a smoke resolution of 3, smoke high resolution of 3. And then I like to turn the strength of the noise up here to about 3 and the velocity up to about 3, because this is an explosion and there can be some crazy swirling motions rotating in the smoke fluid. So there we go. 150 and 3 is a bit lower than I did my final bakes at, but my final bake had to go overnight, and so I don't have time for that obviously. So I'm going to go about 150 and 3 in the smoke high res. That should only take 10 to 15 minutes, I hope. So with that set up, you want to save your file and then bake. So click bake and wait for it to cook. Alright, so you can see the bake is looking really cool, and we get some nice high quality flame coming out of that, but it's going a little slow, and I realized that I forgot one step, so my bad. But I'm going to quick show you guys what to do. The one thing I forgot to show you is I want the flame to ignite like I showed you, but then die off after about 30 frames or so. And I never added that last keyframe that I need to do that. So I'll quick cover that now. So to get rid of the smoke for now, I'm just going to go free bake and then turn off the smoke high res, and let's actually just turn off this modifier for now. Let's not forget about that, but turn it off so it's not slowing us down in our viewport here. Alright, so basically you see I have my keyframe smoke here to turn on. Let me jump to my smoke settings here. Whoops, dog barking in the background. Let me, whoops, I lost my shadow. Let me play that through so I get my shadow back. Boom. Okay, so grab one of these keyframes here, and I'm going to delete this last unused keyframe here that I don't need. And then, so this is the one I'm working on, that shard there. And then I'm going to jump about, 25, 30 frames ahead to something like this, and I'm going to take it to 0, and then hit I on it. So I have it die off after a certain amount of frames. Maybe I'll go a little further. Right there. I'll delete that other one. Okay, So now that this certain shard is keyframed to do that, I want it to be the same on all of them. So I'm just going to box select all of them, Control L, animation data, and now we can see that they all end at that point. So the same thing has to be done with the rest of these. We're just going to go to them and then jump about 30 frames ahead or so, give it a 0 keyframe, insert it, and then let's just grab all 3 of those letters that we want at that point. There we go. Unselect that. Control L, animation data. And you can see they all have it now. Awesome. One more text to do. Let's just grab that last one. Give it a keyframe a little bit later at 0, insert, and then grab it along with this one back there. And we're good to go. Control I. Whoops. Command Z. Not Control I. Control L. Control L. Animation data. And let's just check it. They're all good. And they're all unique. Awesome. So now the flames will die off after a while, and it will look great. So this is rendering out good, but just a little slow, so I might have to reduce the quality a little bit just so I can get the tutorial along a little quicker. So I might take it down to 140, but the higher you go, the better it will look. And if you're going for something real professional, I recommend doing it overnight or something to get the best results. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my modifier again there, and then go to my simulations here, and turn on my high-res smoke. Save my simulation. Now actually I need to quick hide my domain and play this through to get my shards animating properly. So let me quick turn off that thing one more time. Bring my domain back real quick actually, and let me just turn the quality down to a preview quality. 35, and we'll take the high smoke off, and then I'll play it through. So we get the whole thing cached in low quality and the shards cached in. So as soon as that's done, there we go. Everything is caching nicely in a low quality version, but we have the shards and everything cached in properly. And perfect. Everything's cached in now, and all I have to do is go back to my smoke settings, crank it back up to what I was going to do, 140 and high res smoke, and bake it. Basically I just did that because you want to make sure your physics on your rigid bodies are all animated properly and not messed up, so they're all cached in. Alright, so once that's done, you can go ahead and bake and let it go. Alright, and our bake simulation finished, and we now have a really nice looking exploding logo. The quality of it is actually pretty good for the low res that I baked it at, and it looks pretty sweet. You can see the flame dies out as it goes on now, and you're left with nothing but the darker smoke where it was, and everything is working properly. Now, to render this out, instead of showing you how to do it in cycles, because it doesn't need to be cycles, you can do it Blender render or cycles, doesn't matter. If you want to do it in cycles, I have a tutorial right here on explosions, and here I show you how to show up a nice simple smoke material for cycles. So if you want to do that, go ahead and follow that tutorial there to finish up your scene rendering that smoke. But pretty much that's it, guys. A few different things for rendering it out at 50% like I did. The way to give it that half speed look that is kind of cool with this effect is in your render settings. If you render it out at 60 frames per second, save it out, and then open it back up in Blender and play it at 30 frames per second, you'll have half speed at still 30 frames per second, which is plenty. So it looks really cool, and that's what I did in my final animation. But yeah, for the materials, I encourage you to go to my exploding tutorial. I don't want to bother repeating myself again for this tutorial because I already show how to do it there. And that should do it. One thing is to remember, you don't want to render your breaking bar here. So up here you just want to take your cube and uncheck that render box there, so that won't render in your render settings. But that will do it, guys. That is how you explode a logo in Blender. I'm just kind of scrubbing through here real fast. It doesn't go super fast scrubbing, so you can't really play it at full speed unless you render it out. But you can see there, that's a pretty cool looking explosion. And again, for the materials, follow the explosion tutorial. And there you go. So I hope you guys had fun. If you liked this tutorial, please like it and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.